Hey everybody, it's Lex and Riot, and welcome to our budget video. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Lex, my dog is Riot, and we have lived for the last year and a half on the road. And today we're going to be discussing how we are budgeting for our next year of living on the road. If you are new here, a little backstory. I had 3 businesses that were real successful in Chicago. My husband died, yada, yada, yada. Priorities changed, sold the businesses, sold everything, decided to travel, didn't want to live in Chicago anymore, and have been just enjoying some time on the road, but I have continued to work to support myself. I do have a work camping playlist, so if you're interested on about jobs on the road, you can check that out. And now I work for a media company, and I have a couple other streams of revenue, which we'll get into as we talk about the budget. Now, my Google Analytics do show that 83.9% of my subscribers are men 55 and above. So I'm not sure how pertinent this video would be for my main subscriber base, but I appreciate you watching and supporting the channel at any rate. But my intention is to help maybe even one out of the 33% of Americans that do not have a budget. And I personally have lived and breathed by a budget, and it's part of the way that I'm able to travel is because I make sure that I direct where every single penny that I earn goes, so that money does not direct where I can go. Now, before we get started, I want to say this is not financial advice. This is rather how I budget to ensure that I not only live really well today, but I also plan to live really well down the road in the future. Second, there are a lot of different ways that you can budget. There's a lot of different spreadsheets and whatnot out there. This is just the one that works for me and helps me get to the goals that I want to achieve. Third, everyone's circumstances are very, very different. I am a barren, widowed spinster, which makes my economic circumstances very, very different than many women my age. Fourth, my particular spending habits and budgetary style is going to be different than your spending habits and budgetary style. So again, what I would like derived from this video is more the importance of budgeting so you have a roadmap to get to where you want to go. And also you make sure that you are responsible for your own finances, because the only way that you can be financially generous in this life is making sure that you have your own self taken care of first. The point that I would like to be taken from this video is not so much what my expenses are as a projection of what yours could be, but more so how to plan and have a budget in place to make sure that your travel dreams don't become travel nightmares. And point 5 is this is not financial advice. I hope that's very, very clear. We're going to be sharing my laptop screen today because I'm going to share with you the budget that I have historically used, that I developed long ago with a life coach that I had before I hit the road. And in order to do that a little bit more accurately, I'm going to invite you inside my house on wheels so that the sun doesn't affect my laptop screen. So come along with me inside and we're going to share my laptop screen. Here you can see I use Apple numbers. If you have a Gmail account, you can use Google Sheets, which are available in Google Drive. You could use Microsoft Excel if you are a Microsoft user. And you can use paper and pen if you like as well. If you take nothing else away from this video, my best advice, even though this is not technically financial advice, is to simply live below your means. So looking into our budget, what we can see here is that I begin with my revenue streams. So you would just start out by how much is coming into the bank account, and I have that spread out for, as you can see, the entire year. Okay? Now in this budget, before we go on further, anything that is in color is permanent. I'm not going to be making changes to any of the boxes that are in color because I have them set up with formulas. So for instance, as you can see, if I click on this box E6, it highlights all of these because E6 is a sum total of all of my revenue streams. Now, for those of you that are unfamiliar with how to do a spreadsheet, if you're interested, there's a lot of different YouTube videos on using Microsoft Excel, or this is Apple Numbers, or you can use Google Sheets, whatever floats your boat. But you would simply do the equal sign, and then we want to add up all of our revenue streams for the month. You hit the enter button and now we can see it's 0. Here in a moment, we'll go ahead and we'll put in an example of revenue so you can see how this will populate. Okay. Now below what our revenue streams are and our total revenue stream, as you can see here, we have our revenue flows or our expenses. And the first thing that we're always going to do is we're going to pay ourselves either into an investment account or into a savings account. So you make sure that you save, before you do anything else, at least $3,000 in emergency money. Okay. Now here, as you can see, after I've paid myself, I make sure I set aside money to pay the government because I work as an independent contractor. Maybe instead of taxes, you're paying off debt. And you could take 30% of any of your revenue to pay off debt. 80%. Since 80% of Americans are in debt, it's not uncommon. RV living is a great way to live really, really financially inexpensive and take all that extra money that you were paying towards rent or towards your mortgage and pay off your debt as quickly as possible so you can start paying yourself and use any of your leftover money to be generous with. Okay, now here in our blue boxes, our darker blue boxes, and we have one down here as well, we have things that I know are going to be reoccurring monthly and I have no choice but to pay. The things in lighter blue are things that I don't necessarily have to pay each month, but are going to happen throughout the year. So if I save for them each month, it's a way less stinging bite than if I wait. Let's take for instance, for my trailer insurance and tags, which are technically due in November and would cost me $323. Now, instead of swallowing the $323 giant pill, I can take these little aspirins of $26.92, if that makes sense. So I just take a little bit out each month so that when November comes around, I'm in a lot better position and I don't feel quite the hurt of $323 lump sum because I've been saving throughout the year. Now let's go ahead and put in some numbers so we have a better picture of how this budget is actually working. So here you can see that once I put in my earnings for January, and again, this is just a pretend scenario, my total stream would be $2,962. From that, I'm going to put $385.06 either into an investment account or a savings account, and I'm going to put into my tax account so that I'm ready to pay those taxes at the end of the year, $888.60. Now, if you're a person that has that is not an independent contractor, maybe this would be the amount that you plan to pay off in debt. So you could say, I'm going to chip away 30% a month at my debt, which means in this scenario, you would put $888.60 into paying off your debt. Okay, I've put the numbers for January into the budget. So in January, though, we are pretending that it is the perfect month and it went exactly according to plan. Here, what we're going to do next in February is have not such a good month. Maybe something bad happens, or maybe I don't make as much income as anticipated. And that is why we want a budget, so that even when we detour from the plan, I can get back on track for the remaining number of months because I have a set written down plan. All right. So here what I'm going to do in February is I'm going to create a month that isn't according to plan, and we're going to have to flex in March. Okay, so here in February, as you can see, if you follow the cursor, I did not make quite as much money. I am short $700 from what I anticipate, but it still means that the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put away money into investment and savings. I'm going to always pay myself first to make sure that I stay on track for where I want to go. Okay, and then there's the items that I know are non-negotiable. Now, I did put in these numbers as regular savings, but here you can see under vehicle maintenance, I might have had a very big vehicle repair bill, $700, which is almost my yearly budget. But these things happen when you live full-time on the road. So instead of just being able to take out my monthly estimate, I had to pay a big bill. You can see that I tapered down my food allotment quite a lot. I had to eat more of a beans and rice type of a meal plan for the month, and I might have to eat a beans and rice meal plan for a few months to make up for that $700 charge. Additionally, you can see I did not drive as much. So where I normally allot myself $233.33 for fuel, I only spent $100. So maybe I stayed more stationary, really taking the 2-week time on public lands to its full extent. Now down here at the bottom, if you follow my cursor, you can see I'm $312.59 short because of that huge vehicle expense, which also puts me short for my year, because this column, as you can see here, is a running tally of the year to keep track of where I'm at compared to my estimate. So what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to flex in March, because while I cannot change what ended up happening in February, what I want to do is get my year back in the positive. Punch in some numbers. Let's say that I didn't make any more money in March than I did February. Okay, I'll just run through. Now we're into the third month of the first quarter, and we're gonna see what happens when I don't have any more income in March than I did in February, and I have to compensate for that big vehicle bill I had in February as well. Okay, so here you can see, if you follow my cursor, that in March I made the same amount as I did in February, and I still budgeted for savings or investing, and I still need to put away money to pay the tax man at the end of the year, or again, in your scenario, maybe this is paying off debt to get that monkey off your back. Okay, and then I have to pay what I am going to need to keep up with on a month-to-month basis. And of course, I want to take those little stings each month as opposed to a big bite when the time comes. So I'm still allocating funds for things like my trailer insurance and tags, and I'm even putting away yet for vehicle maintenance, even though I took this big hurt in February. Okay, now where again I have more wiggle room is in my food budget. So again, I ate more of a beans and rice type of a diet, and I did not travel as much in March because I'm making up for where I took a hurt in February. Now, if you notice in this miscellaneous category, because we all have miscellaneous expenses, and this is where I think of, maybe you have some more wants than needs, and that can be your miscellaneous budget. And I only take from my overflow for miscellaneous. So you can see in February, I maybe had less fun. I wasn't going to go get something fun to eat. I didn't pay any camping fees, or maybe I didn't buy a new pair of jeans, whatever the case might be. But that means I just had to be more slim that month because of that big vehicle bill. Okay? But in March here, as you can see, I spent $200 on something. So even though I spent a little bit of that miscellaneous money, because I was more conservative in my grocery spending and in my gas spending, I ended up with a surplus of $120.74 over my budget, while still paying myself first 13% into a savings or retirement account and putting 30% away into taxes. That also helped me get back into the green for the year. So for the year, I'm ahead $6.23. So as you can see, having a written down budget means that even when something unexpected and bad happens, you can get yourself financially back on track to make sure that you are having that financial peace, which is so important because this life is wonderful. And even if you live in a house, you want to have that peace of mind that you can pay your mortgage, you can pay your rent, or out here you want to make sure that you can travel in the way that you want to travel. You can enjoy your life and make it the most of what you want, but you need a plan in place in order to do that and have peace of mind. So of course, money isn't everything, but it is a necessity in the world that we live in today. And when you account for where every penny goes, you can start taking more control of your life, which gives you great peace of mind. Another reason that I personally love to live on a budget and live well below my means is when I have surplus, I have the ability to be generous. When you live in a deficit, it's very hard to be generous to others because you're just struggling to get by yourself. So in order to be your most generous, I recommend living on a budget. I certainly hope this budget video was helpful so you can see how to live on a simple budget, and even when you go off track and life happens, how you can flex even within a 30-day period to get yourself back on track. Now, to live on a budget is not necessarily the most fun thing to do. Of course, it's much more fun and fanciful to think about just living this wild and free lifestyle, but the reality is that's not reality. Thank you for watching perhaps the more boring side of travel-related content, but I think it's a fantasy world for anyone thinking that finances do not come with you on the road. Definitely finance is still here, even though it's a much more fiscally conservative way of living, if you live it the way that I live it, I suppose. Considering, and this is an embarrassing statistic that you waited to the end of the video to get, I used to pay $36,000 a year in rent in Chicago. That's right, $36,000 in rent. And I did not enjoy living in Chicago. So that is part of the reason that I live a travel lifestyle, because I'm trying to find, if I want to settle down again, where that could be that is not the city of Chicago, where I paid $36,000 in rent a year. If you did enjoy this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you did not, go ahead and give it a thumbs down. That's fine. Please do comment in the comment section below. I certainly appreciate you watching, especially if you are in my analytical demographic of 83.9% men over the age of 55, as I doubt this video pertained to you particularly, but I appreciate your support through watching, and I hope you continue to watch. Consider subscribing, and we will see you next time where we go back on track to our regular adventures with Lex and Riot, who is outside chasing a lizard. Okay, thank you so much.